Welcome to another episode of Down the Barrel Podcast with Jimmy and Dino.
And sometimes Jared.
Down the Barrel Podcast is brought to you by the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association
and wolf.report. All right, we're here today with Mr. Jared Mazurek, our very first guest. So we're going back to number one on this one.
Was he?
Today we're at number 73. But Jared was our very first guest.
That's right.
So we're here to interview Jared about happenings at MDHA and around the state.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Jared.
Hey, happy to be here. You know, from the very first episode, apparently I did such a great job that you let me keep coming back.
Right. I haven't seen you since.
You know, you're kind of like one of those itches that just don't go away, but it's a good itch, you know.
I got a cream for that.
You got a cream for that. That's awesome. I might need that.
Right.
So obviously you're on location with us today because you're not here.
You're definitely not in studio today.
Yeah.
I'm not. Sorry, were you saying I am on location or I'm not on location?
You're
on location.
Yeah, we sent you.
Yes.
That's what that means, right? We sent
you.
Oh, there we go.
I'm in the field.
Yes.
He's in the field live from Mound, Minnesota.
That's right. Yeah. Down at the Capitol today. Basically figuring out our strategy for our next line of assault. And I think today we made some pretty great strides in eliminating the poultry industry in Minnesota. No, I was down here today. We have a pretty unique opportunity to conserve an additional 20,000 acres of public land in St. Louis County. So I was here.
That's great.
Yeah. So I gave a little testimony today on kind of the benefits that would have on hunters and recreationists and the deer herd in the part of the state that really needs it the most, which is the Arrowhead region. So yeah, I'm not in studio. I wish I was. It's a great place to be, but I'm coming at you live from my childhood bedroom.
Right on.
Well, so trying to figure out how we can do this. Well, we'll just start with this. So you're down at the Capitol, you're lobbying. There's been a lot of reports on social media everywhere that you lobby for a lot of things, such as the latest is MDHA is lobbying to get rid of deer farms.
Yeah, that's been said quite a bit, hasn't it?
It has. It's
right now.
Right. So we are not lobbying to get rid of deer farms. We are lobbying to take significant, important measures to combat CWD, chronic wasting disease. We're lobbying on behalf of our wild deer herd, which, as an organization that exists for the protection, enhancement, sustainability of wild deer, I don't know why we're getting criticism for taking that on, but here we are. And yes, an aspect of that does have to do with farm deer, right? I would never claim that deer farms are the cause of CWD or the only vector for the spread of CWD. I will say that deer farms, it's been proven, are a vector for the spread of CWD. And we're going to tackle any and all threats to our wild deer herd as they come up. And so are we attacking the deer farm industry? No. We have advocated for, along with a number of conservation organizations, I mean, pretty much everyone in the state has been advocating for increased regulation of the industry, the deer farmed industry, to ensure the protection of our wild deer herd. Because we are the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. We stand for habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation. And that advocacy and legislation, we are advocating for legislation on behalf of deer hunters, hunters in general, outdoor enthusiasts in general, but also our wild deer herd. We're not advocating for any private sector interests. Like we exist to protect and enhance our wild deer herd. And the deer farm industry does pose somewhat of a threat to our wild deer if gone unchecked. So we want to ensure that the proper checks and balances are in place to ensure the sustainability of our wild deer herd. So really all we were advocating for is, a double fencing requirement, moratorium on transportation of captive deer to avoid the spread of CWD. And then the legislation that passed did also include a moratorium on any new deer farm licenses in the state. That's not something that we at MDHA ever advocated for, but it's also something that we didn't oppose, if I'm being totally honest. Because again, if you have a threat to your mission, you're going to take any progress to achieving that mission that you can get. And sometimes that progress goes beyond what you were asking, but I'm not going to say no to that, right? I think that just makes sense. So we have new legislation in Minnesota that basically requires the double fencing. It has that moratorium on any new deer farm licenses, and then allows for a one-time transfer of a deer farm license to an immediate family member. And we're pretty happy with that result, because again, we exist to protect our wild deer herd. We don't exist to protect private industries. There are plenty of organizations out there that are advocating for industries. It's not our role, right? I'm trying to remember what the original question was there.
Well, it was just,
are we trying to shut down deer farms?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think deer farms historically, they've served a limited purpose. Some of them, when it comes to, scents and urine production and all of that. I also think that we have pretty amazing synthetic scents and cover scents available on the market these days that don't necessitate the deer farm industry to produce it. I also think that there's a pretty amazing coalition and certification process out there. I'm blanking on the acronym right now, but the Responsible Scent.
The Hunting Scent Association, Responsible Hunting Scent Association. Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. So you can be certified to be a part of this Responsible Hunting Scent Association. And some of our partners, like Wildlife Research, require you to be certified as a captive deer farmer in order to be part of their production or part of their products. There's not a single deer farm in the state of Minnesota that meets those requirements and is part of that association. But beyond that, that we know of. Yeah, thank you. Beyond that, there's no essential service that the deer farm industry provides, at least not essential enough to make me or MDHA as a whole want to abandon our mission of protecting wild deer in order to preserve it, right? Like, we're here for the wild deer. We're not going to put our wild deer at risk so that somebody can grow trophy bucks for some canned, guaranteed success wall hanger pet of a deer. Probably going to get in trouble for using that word pet, but that when it comes down to it, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about an industry that is selectively breeding to get these monster bucks to charge thousands of dollars for some guy who probably doesn't even live in the state to come shoot, have a guaranteed success on it, pay their thousands of dollars, and then go hang it on their wall back in Illinois or wherever they came from. And that's just not an industry that we're going to sacrifice any amount of the security and sustainability of our wild deer herd in order to protect. And if that doesn't make sense to you, turn off the show, like disengage, because that's what we're here for. And we're not going to apologize for that.
Well, there's some that are saying that some of these deer farms, they can, and again, science, can breed out CWD or breed resistant CWD deer. I know, or what was it? It was Oklahoma. They haven't released them yet, but they will be releasing them into the wild. But I don't know if that's truly been vetted yet from what I've heard.
No, it hasn't. And yeah, so what you're talking about is selectively breeding for what's called SS markers. And these SS markers have shown additional CWD resistance in some cases, right? That doesn't mean that these deer aren't still able to contract CWD. And once CWD is contracted, it's 100% fatal. There are a number of factors at play here that we don't know the answer to. One of which is, are these deer still getting CWD, but having a delayed response to it, have a delay in showing symptoms, in which case that's worst case scenario because they are contagious that entire lifespan. So now we're potentially creating these deer that, rather than dying after 2 to 3 years and having 2 to 3 years of spread, we're looking at 5 to 6 years of spread before they develop symptoms and then pass away. So that's one concern. Another concern is if these SS markers are not prevalent in our wild deer population, what are we potentially exposing deer to by manufacturing those markers in the gene pool, right? Like, animals develop to protect themselves, to survive in the environment in which they live, right? So these SS markers, sure, they might delay symptoms of CWD. They may even prevent CWD altogether. But what do they do for EHG? What do they do for any of the other diseases, ecological factors that are at play here? We don't know. So it's pretty easy to make a claim that, this is the cure, but it's less easy to defend that claim with evidence. And we have not seen that evidence by any means. And, we get asked all the time, like, why don't we support the deer farmers in that research? Because maybe it is the cure to CWD and the cure for our wild deer herd. Well, again, we're here for the wild deer. We're not here to support captive deer. And we are not willing to risk the years and years of research and experimentation and spread of CWD that it would take to get an answer to that question. Again, deer farms are not the only source for the spread of CWD, but they are a source. And if we can slow that spread by increasing regulations on those farms, we're going to do that, because that's a result we can achieve today, not 10, 20 years down the road.
Right.
And that's not just MDHA. That is MDHA, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, National Deer Alliance. It's Minnesota Conservation Federation. It's just within the state, I believe there's like 15 to 20 of us. And then you expand beyond the state, and we're talking pretty much everyone that is involved in large mammal conservation is in support of these regulations.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and the deer farmers, they have their own association, right?
They do. Yep.
Here in the state of Minnesota.
Yep.
So I'm sure they're lobbying on behalf of the deer farmers to try and make the case for them, right? I mean, I've never heard them, but I'm assuming they are.
They are. Yeah. And I've met with their lobbyist a handful of times. And
so they do have a lobbyist.
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting because have we said his name yet? Who we're talking about here?
No.
Oh, the deer farmer that's been putting out the videos online and talking.
Yeah. You know, I feel
internet.
like we've been right. We've been pretty moderated, I guess, on all of our platforms. You know, we don't like accusing people or identifying individuals, right? But at this point, you know, it's gone on long enough, and we kind of beat around the bush, and everyone knows who we're actually talking about.
Right.
But so we're talking about Steve Porter. You know,
Right.
he is the loudest voice in the Minnesota deer farmers world. Very, very loud voice, and he makes a lot of claims. And one of those claims that he has made recently is that MDHA is trying to kill the deer farm industry, and that he needs your sympathy because, you know, he's going out of business. He can't sell his farm. He can't raise any money. We're basically leaving him out to dry, right? It's just not true. Like I said, I've met with the deer farmers lobbyist. I've met with their president, Scott Fear. On many of those occasions, especially even before I started in this role, we've talked about buyouts for the deer farm industry. Like, if you feel that these increased regulations will be the straw that broke the camel's back for your operation, we'll advocate for buyouts for you. Like, we want to ensure that you have the financial backing to transition into your next endeavor. We also offered to advocate for funding to be able to comply with these increased regulations. So, you know, Steve loves to talk about this $200,000 that is just prohibitive for him to put up a second fence. We offered to try to find funding to include funding in the passage of the legislation to pay for those costs, or at least supplement those costs. We were turned down at every chance they got. They said, no, we don't want that. We want things to stay the way they are. And I get it to some respect. You know, change is uncomfortable, especially when it is impacting your industry, your way of life. But don't complain now that you're going to go out of business. You have no way to support yourself to adapt to these changes when those opportunities were offered and denied. Right? I mean, even let's back up for a second. Steve likes to say that it's MDHA and the DNR and the Democrats that passed this legislation, right? We've said it before. I'm sure I'll say it again. MDHA does not pass legislation. We are a nonprofit organization. We go to the Capitol. We say, this is what our members want to see. Please make it happen. Just like hundreds and hundreds of other groups every single year. And we're not alone in this CWD deer farm regulation legislation. We've got a whole coalition of many, many groups advocating for this. Steve likes to claim it was just us. It wasn't us. But I have the letter that we wrote, and we didn't even author this letter. We were a co-signer on this letter. But this is about as far as MDHA goes in advocating for these increased regulations, is signing on to a joint letter. Yes, I did also go and testify in person one time. So did most, if not all, of these other groups. Within that letter, it states the closure of all currently operating cervid operations in Minnesota, except for captive cervid facilities created for the following purposes: wildlife research, rehabilitation, reintroduction efforts, or zoological facilities accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. This coalition advocates for the compensation of captive cervid owners for the loss of their herd. The process for indemnification and payouts performed by the USDA could serve as a model for compensating operators. In the letter itself, it is saying it's sympathizing with these deer farmers, right? Like, we don't want anyone to have to go out of business. But again, we're here to protect the wild deer. So if us protecting wild deer is going to negatively impact your business, we're saying it right here. We want to see you compensated for that loss. We don't want you to lose everything that you've worked for. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to advocate on behalf of wild deer. It just means we're going to want to find ways to do that in a way that does not put you out on your ass, right?
Right.
So long answer to your very short question. No, we are not anti-deer farms per se. We are pro-wild deer and pro-measures that ensure the sustainability of our wild deer herd and the hunting tradition that we all love.
Right. So I think that brings me to the question, the elephant in the room. When you look at the internet in the last week, stacks of murdered fawns. And why did the DNR and MDHA go up there and force Steve to murder those poor fawns?
Actually, what's been stated or what's been misunderstood is they're portraying it as the DNR and Tim Walls and MDHA has gone up there to kill off these doe fawns.
Yeah, I read that a lot this week. That's what happened.
Yeah.
That the DNR mainly has went up there and euthanized these fawns.
Yeah. Well, I had a bunch of spare 6.5 Creedmoor ammo.
Right. Well, it's fitting.
I'm surprised it hurt them.
No, like this is that footage that those videos he put out, they've gained traction, right? A lot of people have seen it. A lot of people have commented on it. Nobody forced Steve or his buddy who has a deer farm south of him to go do that. They'll say that we did. We didn't. Yes, laws were passed that require certain regulations to be imposed on these deer farms, and he's claiming that those regulations have made it no longer financially viable for him to keep his fawns alive. But let's be clear, he went out and killed those fawns, buried them in a mass grave. Nobody forced him to do that. Nobody helped him do that. Is there some merit to his argument that it's no longer financially feasible for him to keep those deer alive? Sure. But again, we offered the financial assistance.
Right. And why allow those animals to breed then?
Yes.
Why allow them to breed?
Yeah.
Because I know ranchers that control the breeding of their animals.
Yep.
Why allow those bucks to breed with those does if you were, in the end, just going to bury them?
Right.
Well,
That's my question.
You know, it's a controversial photo op that he just couldn't pass up.
Well, I get that. I mean, and it worked. It did work.
It worked, right?
It
worked, but at the expense of those fawns.
Yeah, I got a lot of
publicity. Absolutely.
Of those female fawns.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he allowed those fawns to come into this world, and I think he probably knew from the moment they were conceived that this was going to be their fate, right?
Right. He had to.
And conveniently, they were all doe fawns, like
right. Yeah.
Dean mentioned, right? Well, yeah, you know, there's not a whole lot of money in doe fawns when you can't sell your does, but he can still sell his, you know, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 trophy buck hunts.
Right. Right.
Yep.
But yeah, you know, we did not force that to happen. We obviously did not do that. The DNR did not do that. Nobody did that other than Steve and I don't know his name, the other deer farmer.
Right. It was.
Yeah, it was a big publicity stunt, and it got attention. I think he's probably riding pretty high right now, knowing the attention that it got.
Right.
But I'm going to call a spade a spade. That was a publicity stunt, and there's nothing else to say about it. You know, it was an unforced error on his part.
Well, and it sure seemed to, at the bottom of every picture, was a GoFundMe to support their efforts in their third. This would be, so they've already been to court twice, right?
Yep.
In Minnesota. The last one was at the Minnesota Supreme Court, I believe.
It was the 8th District Court.
There you go. Yep.
Appeals.
Yep. 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they lost that one, which is the second time they went to court. So now they're trying to, you know, to gain some speed, gain some money to go to the U.S. Supreme Court, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And what exactly are they fighting for at this point?
Well, they are trying to claim that it was a constitutional violation, these regulations that were passed. And obviously, being that they've lost twice now, that's just not the case. Mm-hmm. Industry is allowed to be, and in most cases should be, regulated.
Absolutely.
Especially when it poses a threat to the general public or a public good, and wildlife is a public good.
Right.
So I don't know what they're hoping to accomplish with their, well, I know what they're hoping to accomplish with their Supreme Court bid, but we'll see if it even gets taken up. It's a long road ahead for them if that is the case. And I think with the resources that are going to that legal battle, there's a lot more good that could be done for the general public, for the public good that is our wildlife in the state of Minnesota.
Absolutely. And my question then is, with all the money and attention they're gaining for this issue, why wouldn't they be trying to join people like Wildlife Research and the Responsible Hunting Scent Association and getting certified and following those rules? But I think their rules are close to what the state is requiring anyway. So that's probably one of the reasons that they're not trying to be certified by those organizations.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. And I'm not a mind reader. I don't know that answer. But I think, I don't know. I think they are very skilled at riling people up. When I say they, I mean Steve. He is a very skilled igniter of anger, right?
Yep.
And he's good at taking people's anger and getting them to focus it on whatever he wants it to be focused on.
Right.
And I mean, the biggest proof of that is the amount of phone calls and emails and social media comments that are directed at MDHA.
And you.
And me, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't understand how people can be so upset with us for simply fulfilling our purpose as an organization of protecting wild deer and deer hunting.
Right. And signing on to a coalition that we have a lobbyist, MDHA has a lobbyist, all these other groups had a lobbyist as well at the same meetings, but yet somehow he picks MDHA and you out of the group.
Right.
But in all honesty, a lot of those other groups, they may not have the membership within the state as we do, but I guarantee the money is still spent just as much as what we do for lobbyists or anything else. You know, they're still
100%.
focusing those efforts in Minnesota on those efforts as they would in any other state. And honestly, they're probably allocating more money to that than we are in certain aspects.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's such a robust coalition of people around the country and in the state that wanted to see these captive deer farm regulations put in place. And all of them stand for wildlife, habitat, conservation as a whole. The only industry that has stood up and opposed these regulations is the deer farm industry itself. I mean, what else is there to say? Like, if the only person defending you is you might be wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what to say on that one.
Well, what can you say?
Yeah.
So on all this, what is MDHA's next step on this
Next
topic?
step in terms of deer farm regulations.
Right.
You know, we are happy with the result that we got out of, the 2023 legislative session, where these regulations were passed. We're very happy with that result. We think it is in the best interest of the wild deer herd, deer hunters, conservationists in the state of Minnesota. Our goal at this point is to ensure compliance with those regulations. So we are absolutely monitoring this bid by the Deer Farmers Association to try to overturn that legislation. We've been very happy with the results so far in the two court cases that you mentioned earlier, Dean. I would be surprised if this ever sees the Supreme Court. I'm not saying it's outside of the realm of possibility, but we'll continue to monitor that. In the meantime, we would love to see deer farmers comply, get their double fences up, and protect our public good, our wildlife populations.
Right.
And I think there's a decent contingent of the deer farm industry that is kind of rebelling against that at this point. So we are going to be in support of any and all measures that need to take place to ensure that compliance, which I don't know about any and all, but there's basically a couple options, right? They're going to be fined, and then potentially their herd could be eliminated if they continue to refuse to comply. But if you are not going to comply with the regulations in place, I don't know what to tell you other than we're not going to oppose forced compliance because, again, we're here for the wild deer.
But like you said, in that, in what you're lobbying, what MDHA is lobbying, there was a statement in there that said they could get paid to close down, to shut down, more or less. They get paid for their animals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was we were advocating for more or less a buyout.
Yeah,
right?
there you go. I can't think of the big word.
Buyout.
Yeah, big word for me.
And that's another thing that Steve keeps claiming is that we took away his ability to sell his farm. So now he has all of this equity in his land that he just has to lose, and that was his retirement plan. Well, that's just not true. He could list his property today and sell it. What he can't do is sell his deer farming license. But he can sell his land, right? He still has all of that equity. And if somebody wants to buy it and turn it into a cattle farm, a chicken farm, a corn farm, you name it, they want to turn it into a kick-ass deer camp for, wild deer hunting, they can do that. But he's trying to, claim that we MDHA passed legislation. Again, I wish we could. We can't. We advocated for this legislation, but basically took away all of his retirement savings and his equity, and he can never sell his property. He just can't transfer the deer farming license.
Right. I don't know. In my mind, sell the deer, start cattle ranch.
Right.
Farm.
It seems like farmers have had to adapt. Your family, Dean, down in Kansas, have had to adapt several times since the 70s on what they raised and so on.
Yeah, and even before that, they adapt and overcome. Change things around.
So you remind me to get back to what you're talking about right now. I do want to just step back a minute to what you said, if I can remember what you said, because I know we're going to get picked apart for it.
Oh, absolutely.
You said he could sell his deer.
Yes.
He cannot sell his deer.
Oh,
he
true.
could.
Sorry.
He could sell the hunts, right, for any of his mature bucks. So go ahead and do that. And then whatever you need to do with the rest of your deer, whether it's harvest them, sell the venison, donate the venison, get the tax write-off, whatever that is, right? To shut down, sell your farm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He could easily, make a profit off of that.
Right. Because selling hunts is basically selling deer, right? Unless those
that's his whole business model, right? He's selling canned trophy buck hunts with a guaranteed success rate.
Right.
That's right off his website.
Yep.
Right.
But then you were just saying, and I told you to remind me to come back to it.
Dean's family adjusting to change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
adapt.
Porter himself in one of the videos he just put out talking about his deer farming friend, who again, I cannot remember his name. He talked about how this guy was a dairy farmer.
Yep.
And due to regulation changes, he was kind of priced out of that market. Expenses became too high, profit too low. But through hard work, determination, he was able to adapt, turn it into a deer farm. And now that's being pulled from him, which I'm not saying we don't sympathize. Like, that sucks, right? I would hate for my profession, my career, my entire livelihood to be pulled away from me due to increased costs and decreased revenue. But through hard work and determination, Steve, you can adapt, you can overcome, you can tap into a new market, you can innovate. And again, MDHA, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, Conservation Federation of Minnesota, Isaac Walton League,
Indeed.
Too many to name, NDA, all of these organizations, we tried to give you a seed to be able to do that through buyouts, through financial assistance to comply with these increased regulations, and you turned them down. They did not become law. I don't know what you pay your lobbyist. I don't know why, or maybe he did encourage you to take that route and you guys said no, but don't blame us for your optimism that this legislation was going to work out in your favor and never become law, when there was an entire cohort of conservation organizations, legislators, the general public that were supporting this legislation, and the deer farm industry alone opposing it, and you all denying any provision that would have allowed you to adapt to it. Like, that's not on us.
Right. Well, and we all know, getting back to even the dairy farm, big dairy farms make it. Smaller dairy farms, it's tough to make it. Big cattle operations make it, and they make it really well. Small cattle operations, yep, it's a struggle. They can make it, but it's a struggle. So, I mean, in every industry, I'm sure it was turkey and everything else. In every industry, there's, the big guys that make it really easy and simple, and it's either go big or go home. But even the small guys can still make it, and they adapt over time. They bring on a different breed. They bring on, whatever it is, but they adapt and they change. Right. Just adapt and change. I mean, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It seems to me that they could be lobbying and fighting for being able to sell venison at farmers markets or something.
That'd be great.
I mean, I would buy it. I mean, that seems a better place to put their time, effort, and money to me. But what do I know? I'm not a.
I was at a Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council hearing today, advocating for $25 million to acquire, 20,000 acres of new public land in St. Louis County. The deer farmers could be there.
Right.
I mean, not necessarily Lessard Sam's, but they could be at these different funding sources, advocating for funding to comply with this increased financial burden that is put on their industry. But they're not doing that. They're doubling down on this whole constitutional violation rhetoric. And it's been proven twice over now that that's not the way to go. And it's not MDHA's fault. It's not the DNR's fault. It's not backcountry hunters and anglers' fault. It is an existential threat to our wild deer population that required a legislative change, and the industry needs to adapt in order to comply with that change. Find the funding. Go start a GoFundMe for your $200,000 fence, which that seems like a wild bid to me. But,
right.
Crowdfund for that, because that you can do. Absolutely. You're not gonna win this constitutional violation battle. Like, you're an industry that was dealt a bad hand through CWD. MDHA did not deal those cards. The DNR did not deal those cards. Our job is to protect wildlife. Your job is to comply with the regulations that allow that wildlife to be a sustainable resource for the future.
Right.
Well said.
Yep. We're going to have to record that. Oh, wait, we did.
Boom.
Where to next? Man, we covered a lot right there. I'm just going through my notes. Obviously, MDHA didn't push to kill the deer fawns. We already covered that.
Yeah, we covered that.
Yep, we covered that.
Nobody went up there and did that. That was Steve all on his own with cameras in hand.
And we touched on, you touched on earlier, MDHA against agriculture has been said, I don't know how many times. There's an article that was shared again that you had put out. And on top of that article, you have a picture of an elk, because apparently you've never shot a deer, right?
He likes to say it. It's not true, but is anything he says true?
When it comes to MDHA and you, no.
Let me come clean here. I have a confession to make.
Okay.
I have shot deer. I have shared pictures of the deer that I have shot. I have never shot a deer that comes close to that trophy bull elk that I use in my whitetails columns. I mean, that thing is on, front and center on the mantle in my living room. Like the proudest moment of my lifelong pursuit of big game animals, right? I don't have a trophy buck that comes close to that. And that's because, 99% of my big game hunting life, my adult life, was spent in Colorado, where whitetails are few and far between, at least in the mountains where I lived. So I was out there chasing elk and mule deer. But yes, I have shot many whitetails. Just nothing that I'm as proud of as that elk.
Well, and the other thing is unless from what I can see, unless it's like the 30 pointer or 250 class deer, it's not going to be good enough for a lot of these people anyways.
Right.
Yeah, seems to be.
Honestly, it doesn't really matter. I think they're jealous because they don't have an elk like you do.
Right.
So that could be,
jealousy. Yeah. But did we touch on that MDHA against agriculture? I think we did a little bit earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Little bit. I made the joke about, being at the Capitol today, lobbying against.
You better clarify.
Yeah.
You were not doing that.
I was not there doing that. I think I did clarify. I was advocating for this land acquisition. But no, we're not anti-agriculture by any means. And if you want to get down in the weeds, technical, yes, Minnesota statute does classify deer farming as an agricultural pursuit, which, great. Again, we're not anti-deer farming. We are pro-wild deer. And if your industry, whether it be deer farming, chicken farming, cattle farming, if it poses a threat to our wild deer herd, our purpose as an organization is to defend the wild deer herd. So we're going to say, hey, you know what, deer farmers, or you know what, chicken farmers, your chicken feed is having a negative impact. I'm trying to make something up and I'm struggling, but you name it scenario. If your agricultural industry is damaging the wild deer population, and there is a legislative change that we can make that will still allow you to exist and succeed, we're going to advocate for that change because that's going to defend the wild deer, and that's our purpose, right? Like nobody blames us for education policy that sucks, because that's not our purpose. We're not, the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association is not here to advocate for education policy and curriculum decisions at the school district level. Why are we expected to be here to defend an agricultural pursuit when it is proven to be damaging the actual reason for our existence, which is wild deer conservation, habitat conservation, and hunter education, recruitment, and success.
Right.
Like it makes no sense that I would ever have to argue that fact. But I want to go a little bit of a step further, because just before we got on this podcast, Steve put out another video about this, and really was focused in on our board president, Garth. And this is a direct message to Steve. Steve, I'm Jared Mazurek. I'm the executive director of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. You are more than welcome to call me out, to criticize me, to whatever it is that you do. I'm fair game, right? I'm a paid employee of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. Please leave our volunteer board members out of this. Like, Garth is a good guy who is a lifelong deer hunter, passionate about deer hunting, conservation, and he doesn't deserve or need your criticism. If you have criticism to give, throw it my way. Like, that's what I'm here for. We've got thousands and thousands of amazing volunteers around the state, and the moment you start going after them is when you cross the line. Like, come after me all you want. I'm right here.
Right.
Well said.
Very well said.
Those people are just out there doing the best they can and doing good for the organization and wild deer and hunting.
Exactly. Doing good for the organization and the policies that we have.
Right.
You know, they don't make, MDHA doesn't make policies or laws.
No.
Last I checked. According to you, they don't. Crazy.
I wish, man. I would love, there are so many things I would change if I just had that magic wand.
Absolutely. So give me one example of what you would change.
We would have a wolf season yesterday.
Okay, there you go. Good answer. Good answer.
I've been practicing in front of the mirror.
Yes.
I know, this guy's good.
Well, I'd say that we could dive into that, but that'd be a whole nother hour. And we've already done that like twice already, maybe 3 times about the whole wolf issue and everything. And that keeps popping its ugly head here and there. But we're not even going to go there a whole lot at this point.
I mean, we don't want to go too much. I know in the last week we've really been grouped in with the DNR again a lot. And we say this over and over again at sports shows online. We are not the DNR. We are not partners with the DNR. And we're not even allowed to say that.
Right. And I don't understand how people get confused. MDHA, DNR. It's got to be the D.
Is it the
D? Yeah, there's a 1-letter overlap.
MNDNR.
Oh, true. Okay, that's where it is too. It's the M and the D. See,
well, I think we have the state in our logo, and I think no, they don't even. They have that weird.
I don't know if people realize that MDHA is MDHA is not a state.
We're not a governmental organization. We're NGO. We're an NGO.
Yes,
a non-governmental organization.
I don't think people realize.
Yes.
I don't think some people realize that.
A lot of people assume that we are some branch of the DNR.
Yeah, they get DNR grants, and we do whatever they say.
Oof. Yeah, the whole grant funding thing is it's another one that just perplexes me. You know, like, yes, we receive grant funding, and a lot of that does pass through the DNR, but that grant funding, if we were to lose every single grant dollar we take in tomorrow, do you know what that would do to our organization?
What would it do?
Not a damn thing.
Right.
Like, that affects our bottom line 0%. Every dollar we bring in through grant funding goes right back out to benefiting the citizens of Minnesota.
Right, because you get grants for projects.
Exactly. We'll bring in, let's say $50,000. Well, $48,500 of those dollars is going right back into boots on the ground habitat restoration, whether that's, creating thermal cover for deer for harsh winters, or bud capping so that deer have, food sources, or whatever it may be. All of that money goes right back into habitat. We can retain like up to 5% of that funding to pay for our grants coordinator's time, but her time has to be documented minute by minute. So the majority of the time we don't even bother. We just say, you know what, let's skip your time tracking your minutes. We'll just cover that expense. Let's put all $50,000 back into this habitat project, because that's what's truly benefiting the deer hunter, the recreationist, the bird watcher. That is the true benefactor of that grant funding. We receive $0 annually for operating funds via grants. All of our operating funds comes through, like banquet income,
fundraising,
donations, membership dues, things like that. Grant funding has nothing to do with our bottom line. The more grant funding we take in, the more you as a citizen of Minnesota benefit.
find that hard to believe that the grant funding doesn't go to your, expensive hunting trips, to, Bora Bora or wherever you go.
Do people hunt in Bora Bora?
I don't know. Do they?
I think they sit on the beach in Bora Bora.
Well, but see, that's how bizarre and how stupid it is to even think that, because you don't hunt in Bora Bora.
No, if that grant funding was funding exotic hunting trips for me, you really think I'd still have an elk as my picture?
Right? You'd have an alligator, crocodile, and whatever.
Right.
I have a goddamn Tibetan unicorn.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just...
Well, yeah, I think it's good to clarify some of those
It is.
untruths that are being said out there. And I often wondered about that myself, the whole DNR funding MDHA, because that doesn't seem to be the case. And you just clarified that. So thank you very much.
Well, and I know you said it before, because we addressed this probably in like the first or second episode as well, where everybody says, well, the MDHA is a cheerleader for the DNR. They still do whatever they say. And you've said it. Everybody said it. That's false. We argue with the DNR on MDHA argues with the DNR on policies often. And want to change things, but you have to have a working, you would say better, but you have to have a working relationship, because you have to. So you have to get along to evolve, to change, to make everything your way.
And I'm going to do the opposite of say it better, but I'm going to put it in terms that I think anyone could understand. If I come to you with a request and I say, hey, Dean, you're a piece of shit, do this for me, what's your response going to be? Yeah, you're right. I am a piece of shit. But I don't.
Well, first off, that's usually how you talk to me. Second off, I'm just going to turn around and I'm just going to walk away. I ain't going to listen to you.
Exactly. Yeah, and guess what? You're not coming back to the next, Thanksgiving dinner or whatever this setting is in our negotiation world.
Exactly.
But no, like you have to have a professional working relationship with these people, and coming up with stupid nicknames for assistant commissioners is not a good way to get your voice heard. Like if I have a question, or I have a need or a desire or an issue that our members want to be taken seriously by the DNR, I'm not going to say, hey, Bob Meyer, I hate your guts and I want you to get a wolf season back in the state, or I'm going to trash you every day on Facebook. I'm going to say, hey, Bob, I respect you as an individual, as another human being that has a job to do, that has... what are we at in Minnesota? 5 million people, whatever million constituents that you are responsible for making happy with your policy decisions, with your enforcement decisions. I'm another voice, backed by 20,000 voices that has something I would like to run by you. I respect you as an individual. I don't agree with you on this. But let's sit down, let's talk about it person to person, because we are both human beings. We both deserve respect. And let's see where we can find common ground on this, and let's work from there. And obviously, I'm going to try to, if we start at the middle, I'm going to try to work it my way as much as I can. But if I start 100% on my side of the issue, we're never getting back to anywhere near where we can find an agreement.
Right.
Like if you come in all left and I come in all right, we're never getting in the middle, right? We're going to leave all left and all right. But if I come in with, I respect you, I think, when it comes to wolf management, let's say, I think you would agree that whether or not the wolf population is 3,000 in the state of Minnesota, or it's 6,000 in the state of Minnesota, or it's 10,000 in the state of Minnesota, whether or not we can agree on what that number is, we can both agree that the target recovery number was 1,350 wolves in the state of Minnesota. Do you agree? Yeah, I agree. That's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife set that target number. Are we double that? At a minimum, yes. Let's work from there. Let's make some policy decisions. Let's advocate for, a reasonable, well-regulated wolf season. And let's see how that impacts your minimum population survey the next year. Because when you come back at 3,000 again, guess what I get to do? I get to say, Bob, that 5% harvest rate, that 15% harvest rate, it wasn't enough. Right. Let's go up to 25%. Let's start getting back to that target number. But if I come in saying, Bob, you're a liar, there's 10,000 wolves, you can't change my mind about it, that's the end of the conversation.
Right. We've all been in those meetings to where, you go in, you think it's going to be an easy, level-headed meeting, and you get attacked within the first minute and a half, and then the meeting just, one side shuts down and says, well, screw this, I'm not going to be a part of it. Then you don't listen to anything after that.
Right. The meeting's done at that point.
So,
but I think with some people, the meeting doesn't even get started before it's done.
Right. You don't even get to get to the meeting because you done messed up.
Well, you were just inappropriate. Let's just say that. Uncordial.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about this for over an hour now, guys.
Right. And
anything else you want to add to this conversation, Jared? I think you spoke very well on the funds.
MDHA lobbying.
MDHA president.
Yep. Mm-hmm. MDHA is not against agriculture, which, read online. You touched on it. So
MDHA is not even against deer farms. MDHA is for wild deer.
Correct. And we're going to be advocating for wild deer wherever that takes us, whether it be, the threat of deer farms or the threat of deforestation or habitat fragmentation or, I don't know. Let's say they want to build a new Amazon warehouse in the Boundary Waters, and that's going to threaten deer habitat.
Right.
I'm a fan of Amazon. It makes it convenient.
Right.
But don't put it where the deer that I'm tasked with protecting need to live.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your industry is. I'm going to stand up for wild deer and deer hunters because that is the sole purpose of my position and MDHA as an organization. I'm sorry if your industry is counter to that at times, but I'm not going to cave on that because if I do, what's the point of MDHA?
Right. And again, like has been stated before, it's not just you saying this, it's MDHA, the members as well.
Correct.
Because you get your direction from the members.
Right.
I do. And I will tell you that our members are, in my opinion, the most dedicated, selfless, and passionate deer hunters in the state of Minnesota, because they are the ones that are willing to put their, not just their money, but their money, their time, their manual labor, their dedication to preserving deer hunting in the state of Minnesota. If you're not willing to give back to your way of life, to your traditions that you hold dear, I think you need to find a way to do so. And MDHA is a great option to do that. But there are many other organizations out there as well that are worth your time. So if you are passionate about the outdoors, you're passionate about conservation, find a way to give back, find a way to contribute, whether that be MDHA, BHA, Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, Trout Unlimited, Conservation Federation. There's so many amazing organizations out there. Find the one that speaks to you and give them your your time, a little bit of money. I mean, we're talking $35 for a year for most of those organizations. But what we really need is passionate individuals that are willing to volunteer, to advocate, to share their voice, to help steer the future of conservation in this state and in this country. If that's something you're willing to do, I would put you in the top 1% of hunters and conservationists in the world, because it's unfortunate how few people rely on the resource but don't give back to the resource.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Once again.
Good job.
It's like the guy's smart.
It's surprising to hear. I've been talking to politicians all day, so I'm surprised I have any words left in me.
All right. No doubt. Well, I think that is a great spot to leave it at.
I think so too. I think that pretty well.
We'll call that the last word.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it for now.
Mm-hmm. And
can I give one more last word?
You can give one more last word, sir.
Leave our volunteers alone. Talk to me.
Right.
Let the volunteers volunteer.
They are the best of the deer hunting community. They're given their time, their energy, their valuable, precious time, and they don't deserve to get any pushback for that. I'm getting paid to do this. You can attack me all you want.
Right.
You heard it here, folks.
Right. Leave the volunteers alone.
Exactly. And with that note,
meet me out back.
Meet me up.
Right.
Catch me outside. Is that how that goes?
Catch me outside. There you go.
Well, on that note, till we meet again.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association has been building our hunting and conservation legacy over the past 40 plus years through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation in Minnesota for Minnesota.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and wolf.report proudly sponsor this podcast. However, please note that the opinions, topics, and guests featured may not necessarily align with the views, beliefs, goals, or mission of our sponsors.